Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vachakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. My dear Lord, please guide us all so that we can find our way towards you in a way that is peaceful and joyful for us. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming today.
If you can move ahead, those who are coming late, at least they will get some space.
So how many of you were present 2 days before for the program? I said present, okay. How many of you were not present on Wednesday? Okay. Thank you. How many of you are not present today? So I'll do a quick recap of what we are discussing and then we'll move forward. So the broad topic we are discussing is emotionally healthy spirituality. So the idea is that for all of us, our emotions are a part of who we are, and overall we want that by the practice of our spirituality our emotions become better, more positive, and our emotional life becomes richer. That's what we want ultimately. So I was using the broad template Chit. You remember this?
Yes.
So C was the concept. So the key point we discussed is how the soul, mind and body, all three are real. So the mind is just like the body in the sense that the mind is also real. And when the mind is real, what it means is that whatever happens in the mind also affects us. And we talked about how the body can have an injury. Similarly, the mind can have a wound or an impression. We discussed this is samskara. And the characteristic of any injury is that small stimulus, huge reaction. So if all of us have our minds with impressions in different ways, then in the insight part, we discussed how for each one of us, we need to learn to manage our mind. That when we are trying to practice bhakti, that we want to purify our mind as we talk about it. But at the same time, we talked about how when we talk about managing our mind, the idea is that we cannot force it. Like if there is a wound and we further aggravate the injury, that won't be healthy. And I'll elaborate a little bit on this whole point of managing the mind. In the takeaway, we discussed multiple things about how we need to be aware of, we should try to function in a way that we don't disturb others. We understand each other so that I don't disturb you and you don't disturb me. And to understand this, we Esman no dujate loko, lokan no dujate jaya. So to be able to do this, we can also understand for each person what is non-negotiable, what is essential. So we respect that for them and they try to respect that for us. And what is negotiable. So understanding that each mind is different helps us to see why some people may consider something more important than others. When we talk about managing our mind, we discuss also about how we all need like-minded association, because otherwise there will be unnecessary agitation of the mind. Sometimes small things may become big. For some people, particular rituals may be very important, particular things may be very important. And that's the way they are experiencing Krishna. That's good. But that need not be the only way how Krishna is experienced. So now, today, we will move forward and explore the concept of negative emotions. And when negative emotions come, what do we do with them? Do we neglect them? Do we try to convert them into positive? Do we counter them? So if emotions are real, like sensations are real. Here we discussed also, inside we discussed about the difference between emotion and desire. Emotions are more with the inflow of consciousness. It's the Jnanendriyas, what we perceive, we have emotions associated with them. And when we decide to seek something, that's when we have desires. They are associated more with the Karmendriyas. So today, we'll talk about the idea of negative emotions and how to deal with negative emotions. If emotions are real, in the insight we also talked about how manage our mind. There is objective reality, and there is a problem out there, and there is subjective perception of the reality. We think, oh, this is a very big thing, or it is a small thing. So with respect to negative emotions, we'll use the same framework, CIT over here. Now, there can be negative emotions can be of different kinds. So it could be anger, it could be fear, it could be pain, it could be distress, it could be heartbreak, it could be betrayal. So there are many different ways in which we experience something which is unpleasant. So here, let's first try to understand a little bit more what emotions are. And then we'll try to understand the concept of negative emotions. So broadly, emotions are many things, but we can look at emotions as two main things. Emotions are information. Every emotion conveys some information. And emotions are energy. So emotions create some energy. For example, anger can create a lot of energy in a person. Now, if you consider emotion as information, when we get angry, what is happening? We feel that something is wrong out there. And not just wrong, something is seriously wrong. And not just something seriously wrong somewhere, something is seriously wrong with something that is seriously important for us. Isn't it? We don't get angry over any and everything. So some things are important for us. So anger is information. So just like if I say the body is real and the mind is real, in the body there are sensations. So like that, in the mind there are emotions. So if the body has sensations, okay, I'm feeling cold right now. That means, okay, this particular environment is a bit unsafe for me. Maybe I need to wear some warm clothes, maybe I need to move away from the window or whatever. So when we say it's like information, we can compare here with, it's like a sensation. What sensation is for the body. And now with respect to the information aspect, different emotions may convey different information. So we'll talk about this informational aspect a little bit more about every emotion. So when we feel dissatisfied, when we feel bored, now each of these is conveying some information for us. Now, of course, that emotion can grow and it can also become energy. And when it becomes energy, you have to do something. Like some people, if they get angry, you say, go out and find a punching bag and punch them, punching bag. Otherwise, you'll treat the people around you like a punching bag. You will not physically punch them, but we'll start verbally punching them. Isn't it? So that's energy. So now when an energy comes, that energy we have to do something with that energy. So if you consider here emotion as energy, what it means is that at the level of emotion, it impels action. Initially it impels action. If it grows after some time, it compels action. Impel means we are pushed. Compel means we are forced. We just feel as if I just can't do anything at a particular time. So now emotions are information and emotions are energy. Now then, what does negative emotion mean in this case? If it's just information, we could say it is an information about some negative reality. That's one way of looking at it. That when we say negative emotion means that, okay, if I am feeling bored, that could be in that what is going on is not very interesting. So if something is not interesting, then we feel bored. So it is information. Emotion is information. We could put it at one level like that. Now interestingly, there are two distinct approaches to, two or three, let's look at three different approaches to emotion, which the Gita talks about. Let's talk about dukkha. Dukkha is distress, pain, unhappiness. Now Krishna talks about dukkha in three different ways. Let's look at 2.14. What does he say? Matra sparshastu kaunteya sheet oshna sukha dukkadaha agam apayino anityas tams titikshasva bharata. So he says, let us tolerate this. So some dukkha, he says, tolerate. So we could use another word for it. Okay, it is just a part of it is unavoidable. It is unavoidable. We just have to accept it. Let's focus more on if you consider emotion as energy, so okay, let's keep tolerate. But the information part it's unavoidable. Just as seasons change, like that our emotions also sometimes change. Agam apayino anityas. So tolerate is something Krishna talks many times in the Gita. So let's look at, we'll just read a couple of sentences from here. We'll go to 2.14 in what is the page number? I think 154. Sorry? 44. I think that is the front page. So, let tolerance can repeat after me if you like. My dear Lord, let tolerance increase my intelligence, not my impotence. So, what does this mean? Let tolerance increase my intelligence, not my impotence. So, if we look at what tolerance is meant to do, even in the Bhagavad Gita's context itself, and Krishna is saying in 2.14, tolerate. So, is he saying by tolerate the Kauravas' atrocities? Oh, they did so many bad things to you. It is all because of your past karma. Just tolerate it. No need to fight against them. Whatever happened to Draupadi, that is her past karma. Whatever happened to you is your past karma. Tolerate it. Is that the point over here? No, that is not the point. When he's saying tolerate having to fight against, you have to fight Bhishma, fight Drona. That is painful for you, but tolerate it. So the focus is on doing one's duty, on doing one's dharma. While doing one's dharma, one may face some pain and we should tolerate that pain. So tolerate is important, but that is not the only approach to pain, Krishna talks about. There is 5.22. This well-known verse, Yehi samsparshija bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. That the dukkha comes here through indulgence, and there adya antavanta konteya na te shuramate buddha. So there is another kind of dukkha which is avoidable. And this avoidable dukkha, we should avoid it. We should turn away from it. We should not just succumb to it. So this is, in fact, Krishna talks about tolerance over there in the next verse. Shaknoti haivaya sodum prak sharir vimokshanat kama prodhodbhavam vegam sayukta sasukhi naraha. So shodhum, one who can tolerate. But he's saying tolerate the desire inside you. Don't succumb to the desire. Don't give in to the desire. So here, there is distress which is avoidable. And that which is avoidable, so we can say that that is something which is, if you use the word inevitable over here, inevitable distress has to be tolerated. But there's avoidable distress which should not be tolerated. In fact, that we should be learn to avoid it. So we have to make good choices by which you can avoid the distress. Now there is a third kind of distress which Krishna talks about later on in 18.37 in the Bhagavad Gita. Here he says, Yattadagre vishamiva pariname amritopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. So he says over here that there are pleasures in this world which taste initially like poison, but they will taste like nectar eventually. So he says, push through. Don't, just because it's painful, don't give it up. This is the idea of tapasya or austerity. Tapasya is also painful. So here Krishna says these are strengthening, these are uplifting pleasures. So I am writing a new book on the Bhagavad Gita called Gita Wisdom for Hard Times. So at 3 sessions about how Gita can help. So this is, tell you can get IAS degree in the Gita. So IAS, you can, what is it? There are 3 different kinds of sufferings and we need different approaches for them. So the Gita's message is that inevitable suffering we tolerate or we accept it. Now, avoidable suffering, we counter it. We turn away from it. We don't do those actions. And strengthening suffering, we train ourselves for it. So, let me elaborate this one. So, when strengthening suffering means what? For example, if somebody comes to a country where everybody speaks a different language. Now, learning a new language is not easy. It requires time, it requires effort. It requires humility because we often make mistakes. Sometimes the mistakes can be embarrassing. And once I gave a class, after that one devotee came with a very bright smile on his face. And he said, Prabhu, your class was terrible. And it's a big bright smile on his face. I was puzzled and tried to understand, okay, can you tell me what was so terrible about the class? And he started praising the class. Then I understood he was just learning English and he wanted to say terrific. So, the idea is that when we are learning a new language, we often make mistakes. But we have to go through that. And if we learn that language, then a whole new universe of communication, of understanding opens for us. So many things in life, if a child is learning to ride a cycle, we are learning to drive. We learn some new skills. So all of these, they require effort. So there is pain over there. And that pain needs to be dealt with in the sense that, okay, now we can say tolerate the pain, but here tolerate is not passivity. It's like accept the pain, you can say almost embrace the pain, because when you push through that pain, you will come to a better place. Now, is it that by tolerating cold, we will come to a better place? Not really in one sense. You can say maybe your heat sensitivity will increase, thermal sensitivity of the body will increase, our thermal adaptability will increase. But it's not really that by tolerating cold we are going to become a better person. No, that is just a part of life and we have to tolerate it. So the point we are making is, see, emotion is information. So when I am feeling, what is the emotion I am feeling? Oh, I am feeling distress, I am feeling pain. So emotion gives information, but often that information is coded information. In the sense that sometimes in English, you have the same word which has different meanings. So maybe a child, a teenage son is going to a party. The father may tell him, if you take a punch there, you will get a punch here. So don't drink over there. So the idea is, the words have different meanings. So in one sense, it's like if you consider this as a word, now in one word, there can be different meanings. So this is what somebody makes language artistic. Language, poetry often uses multiple meanings of words, but it can also make it confusing. So in English, the word run has 540 meanings. So I am going for a run. I am running because my car has stopped running. I am running away from this country because that person is running for president. So the same word has different meanings. And that's why just by looking at the word, we cannot understand the meaning. We have to use our intelligence to understand the meaning. So when we see a word, we need our buddhi. We need our intelligence to understand which meaning applies over here. So similarly, we can say emotion is information. But multiple informations can be there. So for example, when I am feeling a negative emotion of, I am feeling unpleasant, I am feeling some pain. That pain can be because of inevitable suffering. That pain can be because of avoidable suffering. That pain can be because of strengthening suffering. So when we experience something negative, what to do about it? That is something which we have to have our intelligence to be able to decide. Not all pain is to be tolerated. Like I said, if Kauravas were doing atrocity after atrocity after atrocity, and the Pandavas decided enough is enough. So some pains are to be tolerated, but some pains are not. So there are different ways to deal with pain. And sometimes when we develop some unhealthy coping mechanisms, for example. Nobody is born with a bottle of alcohol in their mouth. Now most people, they start drinking because maybe initially they just want to hang out within college and all the cool kids drink. So they think I should also drink to be a part of the cool kids. In trying to be cool, people become fool. Quite often that happens, unfortunately. But okay, initially they may just be social drinkers. But then from that, it may become a habit. If it becomes a habit, then they become pathological drinkers. They keep drinking, they become addicted to it. So what we are seeing over here is that there is one negative feeling. What is, I am feeling lonely. I am isolated. I am not a part of that group. So to get rid of the negative feeling, what do? I drink. But when we start drinking, then that makes us feel good. But after some time, we may thinking that, okay, now I'm just feeling a little bored, I'm feeling a little down, things have gone wrong. So let me drink. So initially we drink because we want to belong to a particular group. So in the Western culture, drinking is a very normal part of life. But even they have some sense that, okay, you drink later in the day, you drink in the evening, you drink at night. So, one devotee, when I was giving this class on drinking, after that one devotee showed me a video clip. This was of some TV show or something like that. So, one person is drinking, want to drink, and the other person is saying, Isn't it a bit too early to drink? And that person says, oh, I had a 1 hour meeting with that person. And that person is apparently a very difficult or disagreeable person. Oh, then 1 drink won't be enough for you. So, the idea is that when negative feeling comes upon us, we want to deal with that negative feeling. But how do we deal with that negative feeling? So, that is where we develop one way to deal with a negative feeling, but then that way we start using it when the negative feeling has come because of some other reason also. So, initially they drank because, okay, I'm feeling lonely, I don't want to belong to a group. Now it's better that they find a group where they can belong without needing to drink. But they okay, I'm feeling bad. But so the bad feeling was there. Initially the bad feeling was because of loneliness. Now it may be because of boredom. Now it may be because of something going wrong. Maybe they're just unengaged, whatever. So emotion is information. But what is the information? Unless we understand it properly, we won't be able to deal with it properly. And so, for example, Arjuna, the emotion, the information he got is, oh, I had to fight against Bhishma and Drona. This is horrible. This feels terrible. The extent of emotion Arjuna must be having for the Gandiva to start slipping from his hands, for his whole body to start trembling, for him to start crying in public. Tam tatha krupaya vishtam ashrupurna kulekshanam. So, how much emotion must be battering him at that particular time that he's having that level of physical symptoms of that emotion. So now that emotion has come, and at one level, okay, I came to this battlefield and I was about to fight, and that's the time I felt this emotion. And therefore, what should I do? Let me leave the battlefield. Let me not fight. So when an emotion comes, we may interpret that emotion in a particular way. What Krishna does is, Krishna equips Arjuna's intelligence so that he finds a different meaning in that emotion. So initially Arjuna is thinking that this is avoidable. This war is avoidable, so let me just go away from this war. But Krishna reveals to Arjuna that actually this war is not, this emotion you are feeling, it is not because you are doing something undesirable and you can avoid it. It is actually strengthening. It will be good for the world because you will be establishing the order, dharmic order in the world. It will be good for you because you will be protecting, you will be doing your duty as a Kshatriya and protecting the world from people like Duryodhan. Duryodhan was such a tyrannical person. When he tried to disrobe Draupadi in public, this is such a ghastly activity. Throughout the history of the world, there will be people who are predatory, males who are predatory, and they will prey on females. But generally, such people will do it in some dark alley, somewhere where there is no eyewitness, no evidence. They have some fear of the law. If somebody does in public, that means they have no fear of the law. If somebody does a crime like this in the police station, then not only do they have no fear of the law has fear of them. Isn't it? So, Duryodhan's actions showed that particular mentality of his. And if such a person got unrestricted power, see, Duryodhan did not really go on an ego trip and do horrendous things while he got power for those 13 years of the Pandavas' exile. Because he wanted to win the citizens over. He wanted to win allies. Because he knew that eventually there's going to be a fight. But if the Pandavas are out of picture completely, then all his dark nature will start coming out. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that the same emotion, Krishna and Arjuna. So why fight? So it is, fighting is good. It is strengthening. It is good for the world. It is good for you. It is actually good even for Bhishma. How? Because Bhishma doesn't want to fight on that side. But he's obligated to fight. And Krishna says, Vasamsi jirdani yatha vihaya. And his body is old now. You'll have to kill him. That's painful. But he is a virtuous person and he will be elevated to a higher destination. He will get a better body. And in that sense, it's good for Bhishma. So you can say in the ultimate sense, it's good even for Duryodhan, because he is doing terrible bad karma and nobody stops him. He'll keep doing bad karma and he'll suffer much more in the future. So what is the information conveyed by the emotion that Krishna changes Arjuna's vision? So in that sense, when we say negative emotion, can we really call it negative emotion? It is, we are experiencing something which is unpleasant. But that much is true. But what do we do when we experience that unpleasant? That is something which we have to use our buddhi to decide that. So in some ways I have already moved into the insight part over here. The concept was that emotion is information and energy. So depending on what information we perceive in that emotion, accordingly what energy we will get. So if you are hearing this class and okay, this class is it is a little intellectually demanding. So the emotion you feel, hey, this is, so sometimes somebody thrusts a weight on our body. Now you can say, why do I have to carry this burden? Or you can think, oh, by carrying this burden, I can become stronger. Carrying this weight, I can become stronger. So depending on, say now, whatever you are hearing, what emotion, okay, this is a little, I have to apply my head. What is going on over here? So now, if you think, okay, I would just like to hear some pastime. I had a long day, I'm tired. I didn't come here to do intellectual work now. So if we think of all this analysis as avoidable, then the energy we will get is, how can I get out of this class? Now, if on the other hand, if we think, okay, yeah, this is difficult, but this is interesting. If I learn this, it will be helpful for me. It is strengthening. Then the energy you will get is, okay, let me understand it. Let me pay more attention to it. So basically, the information and energy are very related. And so when we talk about negative emotions for us, all of us will experience negative emotions in life. That is just the nature of the world. But based on our buddhi, we will understand how to make sense of that emotion, and then what to do in response to that emotion. So with this understanding, now let's talk about a couple of points over here, and then I'll move towards the takeaway, and then I have some questions from last time also. I'll take those. So within the insight, there are one important thing is that when we say experience misery, we're experiencing pain. So in terms of I talked about the inevitable misery, the avoidable misery, and the strengthening misery. So misery has come. Misery is, you can call it, misery is more of a state, but pain, distress, it's an emotion. So now if these three things we consider inevitable, if it's inevitable, that is associated with Jagat. It is the nature of the world. Everybody is going to grow old. Everybody is going to get diseased. Everybody is going to die. Now, if we consider the misery to be avoidable, that is associated with the Jiva. It is our actions that are creating the misery. Not all miseries are because of the nature of the world. If on a cold night like this, somebody eats a dozen ice creams, and then in the previous night they were saying, I want ice cream, ice cream. Next morning they have a terrible throat, they say, ice cream. So now when that happens, now if they are feeling pain, this body is Vyadhi Mandira. This body is Ashesh Rujam Viroha. It's a breeding place of unlimited diseases. Is that distress because of the nature of the body? No, it is because of the nature of our own actions. Is that because of past karma? Well, yes, but past night's karma. Not past lives karma. So, the avoidable distress is because of the jiva's actions. And we can say the strengthening distress is a part of the Lord's plan. It is to Jagdish. Krishna has put me in this situation, and let me look at it positively and let me grow through it. Through this problem, I will come closer to Krishna. So for each one of us, analyzing why this distress is coming is important. And then once we analyze this, then we can decide how to deal with it. So ideally speaking, what our bhakti should do? Bhakti should dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantiti. By our practice of bhakti, our intelligence becomes clearer. And by that intelligence, we start seeing things more clearly. Okay, this has happened because of this, and this is what I should do about it. So we can say bhakti or Gita wisdom, bhakti principles, we can apply them rightly or we can apply them wrongly. So, rightly applied, what we will do is, we will deal constructively. Deal constructively with the negative emotions. We'll deal constructively. This is if right application. Now, if the wrong application, then what will happen? We will deal destructively. Now, what do I mean deal destructively over here? I was in UK and I was staying at one devotee's home, and I knew him from India. I had been introduced to him when I was doing some college programs. So when he had got married and he had settled in America, in UK. So I was there at his home, and he was talking about his job, and he was driving me. It was 1 hour drive to the program and then to his home. So he was telling me, tomorrow is my wife's wedding anniversary. So I said, what do you mean your wife's wedding anniversary? He said, is it your ex-wife? You got recently married? So he said, I know the Bhagavad Gita. All these are sentimental things. All these are temporary sentimental things. And I don't believe in all these things. So that itself was a bit of a red signal for me. Then he started telling me that, I had entered to Grahastha Ashram. I was thinking that, my wife and I, we will both practice bhakti and we'll do a lot of service. But, she just doesn't cooperate at all. And I got a realization that Krishna has given me a disagreeable wife so that I'll become detached from material life. So now I told him, wait a minute, don't jump to Krishna's hand over here. Before we do jump to Krishna's hand, look at your own hand first. So then I was at his home, and then was taking prasad. His wife was talking with him. Very intelligent lady, quite responsible, quite spiritually interested. But then, basically, in the name of practicing bhakti, he was ignorantly, not intentionally, ignorantly just neglecting many typical family responsibilities, whatever is expected of a husband. And naturally, his wife was upset because of that. So, this is not, by this, Krishna wants me to get detached. Don't bring Krishna everywhere. So, it is our own actions that can create problems sometimes. So, this is not strengthening distress. This is avoidable distress. So, now sometimes we all have to, I talk about it, sometimes I'll disturb you, you'll disturb me. But throughout we learn each other, understand what is important for you, what is important for me. We learn about ourselves, we learn about the other person. And then slowly we grow by that. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the emphasis on dharma is important. Dharma is the idea that we need to do our duty even when there are difficulties. So now at a very elevated level, one may transcend material existence completely. But for most of us, we live in the world and we have roles to play in the world. So when we face difficulties, at that time, if we understand, okay, first explore, am I doing something wrong over here? So in one sense, we could put it that there's a negative emotion right now I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing some misery. So the same event can be understood at different levels. So the first circle of explanation, say, if right now I'm speaking and suddenly there's no sound coming. And now I can say that the first thing I should do is, maybe the mic has got turned off, isn't it? If I start thinking, maybe I got some stroke of the throat and I've lost my voice permanently. Don't imagine like that. Some people are so caught in their head, it's always going toward the most negative explanation. Some people, they watch TV, while watching TV, they sit on the remote and press the mute button. And they can't hear anything. Oh, I got deaf! So, no need to jump to a bigger explanation when a smaller explanation suffices. So, if this is not working, then the first thing I would say is, okay, that this has gone off over. Maybe the power supply has gone off. Maybe the organizers are telling me to finish the class now. So, there could be different levels of explanations. So the first is, look at my action, the jiva. When the misery is coming, so in Nyaya, in Vedic logic it is said, whenever distress comes, always start with the drushta karan, the visible cause, and then move toward the adrushta karan. If the visible cause does not make sense, then move towards distant or invisible causes. So the second level could be that I look at the Jagat. Maybe it is the nature of the world only. That yes, we may sometimes, despite all the things we try to make, all the arrangements we make, sometimes there are technological issues. My classes require a good amount of technology. There's PowerPoint and all this. So I have created a word. There is Ugra Karma and there is Tugra Karma. Tugra Karma is technology related Ugra Karma. So sometimes the projector doesn't work, sometimes the cable doesn't work, sometimes the pen doesn't work. So many things go wrong at times. So now if despite our best effort something doesn't work, then what we should be able to do is, we should still be able to manage it and move. Yeah, sometimes these things happen, and tolerate it. So we consider it to be the part of the Jagat. In the nature of the world, tolerate it. Now beyond that, you can look at it and say that this is the result of the plan of the Lord, Jagadish. That, say, if we have to do early morning aarti, and for that we have to go to the temple, and it's very cold. Now we can say it's cold and this is just a part of the nature of the world. Let me learn to endure it. I can wear warm clothes and I have to go. But sometimes we are going and maybe where we are doing the temple, maybe the heating is not working and it's cold. You can say this is for the service of the Lord. So let me see this as a matter of for my purification I'm doing it. But then that is one time it's okay. But if every day it's happening, we need to make some arrangements to change it. So sometimes some suffering, it is unavoidable. By tolerating it, we can become stronger. But the unavoidable suffering, if it can be avoided, we should avoid it. It is not that all suffering is something which we always need to think that, okay, this is unavoidable, let me accept it. And sometimes some suffering should not be avoided. Because that, trying to avoid that suffering may take us away from Krishna. Oh, it's early in the morning, I cannot go to the the program is so far away, I cannot go for the program, this, that. But we may learn, we may go closer to Krishna. So what is the information behind the emotion? That is important to understand. And so one point is that I said, we should not, let's put it as misery, I said, misery may come because of our own irresponsibility. Isn't it? It is not necessarily because of Krishna's. So misery can be the mercy of Krishna. And misery can be because of our own irresponsibility. Now, let's take an extreme situation now. This is, I was telling the same devotee who was telling me that, Krishna has want me to detach from material life. So he said, I'm thinking of maybe I should leave my wife and my parents I mentioned that my parents are very angry with it. And then he quoted a verse. He said, when Krishna bestows special mercy on someone, everybody rejects that person. Yasyaham anugrahanami harishyeta dhanam shanai. That's swajanam dukkha dukkha chattas. Everybody gives him up. Now this person, he was being abandoned because he was being irresponsible. And if he's being irresponsible and he says, everybody is criticizing me, that is Krishna's special mercy. No, people are criticizing you because you're doing something wrong. In India, now the Krishna consciousness movement is becoming quite influential. We become quite respectable. Our devotees are invited on mainstream channels to sometimes give opinions on social events. We have a major role in the Kumbh Mela. We provided food. So ISKCON has become quite respectable. Now, many of our brahmacharis, when they write books, previously publishers were not ready to publish our books so much. Now they don't want to publish our books, they want the picture of the brahmachari on the cover. Because they say, seeing the picture of the monk, people will buy the books. So, I was talking with one devotee leader, and he's a bit confrontational. Confrontational means, he's very strongly critical of the world. And he said that Prabhupada said that if we preach purely, the world will oppose us. And the fact that the world is not opposing us means that our preaching is impure. So he said, so then I asked him, are you seriously saying that we should not be so popular, we should be more unpopular? Yes, he said, unpopularity is a sign of purity. Now, possible, we have to sometimes speak unpleasant truths. But unpopularity did not always be because of impurity. Unpopularity can be because of irresponsibility. It can be because of insensitivity. It can be because of immaturity. So, one time our devotees in North America, late 70s, after Prabhupada departed, they were going on Harina. And now Harina, when we go on Kirtan, Kirtan should be soothing, Kirtan should be sweet. But sometimes we have huge cymbals. They just make a loud sound. And the devotees were going through a street where there was a ear care hospital. And it was like a specialist hospital for small children who had damage to tympanic membrane. And when they're doing kirtans, and some hospital attendant came and said, no, please, we can't have loud sound over here. So one devotee said, anyway, those people are suffering because of their past karma. If the now sound of the holy name goes in their ears, they'll be purified. And they started doing loud kirtans. Now, they immediately reported the police. The police came and actually arrested the devotees at that time. And they said that. And the devotee said, see, we were fearless. And our fearless is that the police arrested us when we were doing kirtan. That shows the police are demoniac. The other police being demoniac over there. No, we have to have basic sensitivity, isn't it? So the point is that sometimes unpopularity may be because of our insensitivity, because of our immaturity. These are extreme examples, but the principle remains that we can. What is the information? Misery is, yes, Krishna is saying, yes, train yourself to tolerate, to endure this misery and push on. Or Krishna is saying, don't do this. You are going on the wrong path, don't go do this. So that's why when we experience emotions, we cannot just very conveniently quote one shloka and say this misery is because of this. Yeah, we have to actually see the whole picture and try to understand, not just connect Shastra, one shloka from Shastra to a particular situation. Our focus should be, how can I do my dharma in this situation? How can I have an attitude of service in this situation? So, how can I act in a way that will move me closer to Krishna? So, in general, rather than trying to find out, is this favorable? Is this because of Krishna's mercy? Is this because of my actions? Sometimes it may be very difficult at that moment to decide. So the principle is, we should focus on, this is the last part of the takeaway, that is, that our deciding basis should be anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjana. Rather than thinking, oh, this is going to make me detached, or this will show that I'm attached, or this popularity is a sign of impurity, or popularity is a sign of purity. No, it can be either. We don't know. So what is favorable to Krishna Bhakti and what is unfavorable to Krishna Bhakti? That is what we should be focusing on. So, when we talk about anukulyasya, what is favorable, we accept that. And what is unfavorable, we avoid that. So now, how do we decide what is favorable, what is unfavorable? That we have to look at the big picture. We have to look at the phalena parichayate. And when someone is upset with us because of something, or when someone is pleased with us because of something. Now, if somebody is upset with us, that's not a very pleasant feeling. Unless, of course, we want that person to be upset. Isn't it? Sometimes some people, you have a very negative relationship with someone, the unhappier they become, the happier we become. It's like that. So, but generally if somebody is upset with us, that's not a very pleasant feeling. And somebody is pleased with us, that is a pleasant feeling. But sometimes the other person may be pleased with us because we are doing something which is, they are doing something bad and we are going along with it. We are allowing them to do something bad. So on the other hand, they may be pleased because they are doing something which is good for them and good for us also, which is beneficial. So that's why we can't simply, sometimes we all may have to displease others. If we try to please everyone, the only way we can please everyone is to start a free ice cream distribution charity. And people will be pleased till they get cold after that. Then also they will not be pleased. If you want to do anything responsible. Now, should parents try to please their children? Now, we don't want unhappy children, of course. But the parent's primary responsibility to be the parent for the child. And sometimes being a parent means that we have to be hard. We have to set some boundaries. So, Chanakya Pandit says that should the parent be a friend with the child after the child has grown up? Isn't it? When the child becomes a young adult or adult, that time you can have a friendly relationship. But when the child is a child, we have to be a parent for the child. So the idea is sometimes the child may not be happy with what the parents are doing, but the parents have to do it because that's what is the necessary thing for them. So, with respect to this favorable and unfavorable, favorable for what? Favorable for our dharma and favorable for our bhakti. Now, in the last part of this, which is Saturday, tomorrow evening, I'll talk about the relationship between dharma and bhakti. Now, how the two work together and how they are meant to work together, broadly speaking. But let's take a quick difference with this. The takeaway, see, there is attachment and there is affection. Now, we don't want attachment, we want affection. Now, what is the difference between attachment and affection? The key difference is, whenever there's affection, we don't like to say no. If somebody asks us for something, if a child asks us for a toy, then we don't like to say no. Now, if we like to say no to someone, then there's no affection over there. There's enmity over there. But then there's attachment, we can't say no. Sometimes in romantic movies, they may say, I can never say no to you. Well, it's not that simple. Sometimes we may have to say no. So, Dhritarashtra, was he attached to Duryodhana or affectionate to Duryodhana? Attached. Whatever Duryodhana wanted, Dhritarashtra could never say no. When Krishna came as the peace messenger, Krishna first spoke to Dhritarashtra. And within a few minutes, Dhritarashtra said, "Oh Keshava, whatever you are saying is true, I accept it. But my son doesn't listen to me. Please try to persuade him." So here, openly he was admitting that he was on the throne, but somebody else had power. Like the Indian government was like that 10-15 years ago. So now there's a difference between attachment and affection. And similarly, there is a difference between detachment and irresponsibility. We want to be detached, not irresponsible. So detachment and irresponsibility, what is the difference? The difference is that we do our dharma, and after we do our karma, we do our duty, we do our karma in the sense that whatever dharma, and then we are not attached to the phala. So not attached. That means sometimes I may have to speak a harsh truth to you. If that is necessary, I'll speak it, and I hope that you will understand and you will change yourself. But if you don't, then I'm not going to catastrophize over it. So detachment means not absence of emotion. It doesn't mean absence of caring. We care, but we understand that we can't really control people. Sometimes people will not listen to us. Now, irresponsibility means we don't do the dharma only. So, suppose we apply for an interview and we do our best, we need a job, but somehow we don't get the job. Then, to accept that it has happened, we can be detached. If a child studies for an exam but doesn't do well in the exam, then okay, sometimes these things happen in life. We can try to figure out, was it that I didn't study, was it that there's too much competition, was there something else going on? We can try to figure it out, but okay, accept it. So when after doing our part results don't come, detachment helps us to be at peace with that situation. But if a child does an exam, a child is not studying, and the mother says, "Why are you not studying?" He says, "Mommy, I am detached from the results. Why are you so attached to the results?" Now, that is a distortion of the philosophy. So for us, again, this point is that attachment and affection is, we want to do our dharma, we don't want to cause pain to others while doing our dharma. Affection means we'll try to adjust and accommodate the other person. So what is favorable to dharma, what is favorable to bhakti? Detachment means I will do my part, I will do my duty, and after the result doesn't come, I'll accept it. The key is what is anukul and what is pratikul. So sometimes we cannot understand why something is happening exactly, but we can focus on what can I do about it, how can I act in the situation in a way that things will become better, and not that my actions are making things worse. So that is the criteria by which, if we decide, then the negative emotions that we face, we will not create further negative situations because of those emotions. Rather, we will try to minimize those negative situations and hopefully create a pathway towards more positive situations. So I'll summarize. Today our topic was dealing with negative emotions in emotionally healthy spirituality. So how do we deal with these emotions? Once we understand emotions are real, and we have to acknowledge that they are just like the body's sensations. So CIT. C was the concept. Now in the concept we discussed how emotions are basically two things. What are they?
Emotions
Yes, emotions are information and energy. So now the problem is that if we consider emotions, I talk the example of like a word is there and there can be many meanings in the word, behind the word. So like that, behind an emotion, even if I have a negative emotion, so there can be different meanings behind that emotion. That negative emotion can convey that, okay, this is just the nature of the world. It is inevitable. That negative emotion can convey that you are doing something wrong, so avoidable. And that emotion can say that this is good for you, push through in spite of this. Strengthening. So what is the emotion behind that? To understand that, we need intelligence. And the Gita provides intelligence. This is what it does to Arjuna. Arjuna processes the negative emotion of the panic that comes over him when he has to fight the war. This intelligence is provided by the Gita for us. Then in terms of the insight, we discussed about how when problems come in our life, we had to start with the nearest explanation. That is it my action that is causing the... So if I'm feeling negative emotion, is it because of my action? Is it because of the nature of the world? And finally it is because of the plan of the Lord. So if we misdiagnose, then there can be a problem. So we discuss a few examples of misdiagnosis. That misery is there. Misery can be because of mercy, but misery can also be because of irresponsibility. So if our family relationships are not going on well, that does not mean Krishna has put us in that situation. It could be we have put ourselves in that situation. So don't look for Krishna's hand in the situation before we look for our own hand in the situation. Isn't it? Similarly, we discussed about unpopularity. So if our actions are making us unpopular, as not just as an individual but as an institution, as a movement, that could be because of our purity. We are firmly speaking truths that are unpleasant. But that could also be because of our insensitivity. That could be also because of our immaturity. So it is not just that we try to look at one shloka for a situation and then introduce that situation to that shloka. We have to look at the full picture. And that's why the takeaway for us was that when we face a negative emotion, there is the cause and there is the cure. So the cause, we need our intelligence to figure that out. We use the intelligence. But even if we cannot figure it out, in terms of the cure, the action that we do should be favorable. Favorable to dharma and favorable to bhakti. So we should not be doing that which is unfavorable. So sometimes you may not exactly be able to figure out why this is happening, but when I act over here, what is going to happen? Am I going to make things worse? We understand that, and based on that we can move towards the cure. So we discussed example of how when we are functioning, we need to differentiate between attachment and affection. They are not the same. That when we are affectionate, at that time we don't like to say no, whereas when we are attached, we just can't say no, even if it means doing something adharmic. And similar, detachment is after we have done our dharma, we are ready to accept whatever situation comes. But irresponsibility means that we are not ready to do our dharma only. So if we learn to act in this way, when we are experiencing a negative emotion, the action that we do, the action should create a positive situation, not a further negative situation. This is how we can actually, in a healthy way, process our emotions. And this is what the Bhagavad Gita uses buddhi and ultimately buddhi yoga for doing this. So we will discuss a little bit more about this buddhi yoga, about favorable and unfavorable responses to emotions, and how dharma and bhakti are meant to go together, and when that dharma and bhakti don't go together, what do we do at that time? We'll discuss that also in last session tomorrow. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So clapping is information. The information can be the class was good or the class is over.
Terrible.
So, any questions or comments? Yeah, please come.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice lecture. My question is from the last session on Wednesday, where you were telling us about the takeaway of do not disturb others and don't get disturbed, which was a really important takeaway. But my question was, how do we apply that as a parent? So you covered that a little bit before finishing the lecture today, but sometimes we ask our children to do certain things which might cause some disturbance in their mind. So we can't keep pleasing them because that's not our job. So how do we maintain a balance, Prabhuji? How do we deal with that kind of situation?
Can we talk about this? This is one of the key themes I'm going to discuss in tomorrow's session.
Sure.
Okay. If there are any other questions, we can take them now. If you don't have, then I can address this. Are there any other questions at this point? Okay, so
there is one question.
Yes. So, okay, I'll answer it tomorrow if you don't mind. Because it requires a little time. Yes, if you have those questions, you can read them also. What you have to question. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice lecture, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in this entire topic, I feel it is always there is a thin line between deciding what is favorable, what is unfavorable. Based on my mood, where I am situated, I may incline towards this is favorable to me, or it may not be favorable to me. For example, when I am arguing with someone, so that can be the situation which actually arising to an argument can be tolerable, can be avoidable, or can also make me strengthening as well.
Yes. So here the two very good question. That see, education has two different aspects to it. One is education means what is complex, we make it simple. Education only is what is simple, we show how complex it is. So both are there. So for example, teaching a child initially, this is black, this is white. And then after that, there are so many colors in between, and there are so many shades of grey, which are very difficult to distinguish also. So in one sense, it is good to first understand this category, that there are different distresses. Now specifically, when a particular distress comes, particular unfavorable situation comes, where does it fall? That is definitely a difficult decision. Now when you talk about difficult decision, there is we often have to decide this based on our guna and our karma. So why guna and karma? Because different people play different roles. See, in 1842 and 1843 in the Bhagavad Gita, 1842 Krishna talks about the qualities of a Brahmana, and 1843 Krishna talks about the qualities of a Kshatriya. So Krishna says a Brahmana should be forgiving. Shamo damastapah shaucham shantirarjamamivacha. So Shanti means peacefulness. Prabhupada also translated Shanti sometimes as forgiveness. So even if somebody offends a Brahmana, the idea of Brahmanical virtue is forgive. Now in the next verse, Krishna is talking about Kshatriya virtues. And there he says, Yuddhe chapya apalayanam. Don't flinch from a conflict. Don't flee from a conflict. So that means don't just forgive. Sometimes you have to confront people. So it's not just different, it's opposite. So Brahmanas are generally not rulers or administrators. Brahmanas are wise, saintly individuals. So Krishna is talking about forgiveness as the virtue of a Brahmana. Forgive, and Kshatriya is saying fight. So forgiveness is definitely an individual virtue. All of us in our relationships, we all should learn to be more forgiving. And life will be much better because of that. But if anybody is in any official role as a leader of a collective group, the government, for example, cannot have an official policy to forgive all criminals. Isn't it? Forgiveness as an individual virtue is glorious. Forgiveness as a social policy will be disastrous. So, their justice is restored. Justice means, okay, you stole this, you damaged this, you have to make amends for this, you have to pay it this way. So, therefore, guna and karma is important for each person to consider, to decide what is favorable for me and what is unfavorable for me. So, guna, we can say that is our disposition. What is our particular swabhava? Karma refers to our position. What is the role we are playing? And quite often, if somebody is in a responsible role, then they have to do something to correct the situation. And you cannot just accept the situation. So that why I'm talking about is that tolerance, when we have to tolerate something, should we tolerate it or should we mitigate it? So tolerance, what it should be doing is that tolerance should be able to help us to keep small things small. So that we can keep big things big. So we keep small things small, and by that, so say you're sitting for this class and sitting on the floor is not very comfortable for you. But the class is only going to go for 6 more hours. So you can tolerate it. It's a small thing. But suppose your legs start paining so much that your whole consciousness gets caught over there, you cannot focus. Then it's no longer a small thing, it's become a big thing. Then maybe get up, find a chair, and get a chair from somewhere and sit there, or you can stand, you can walk, whatever. So for us, tolerance can go wrong in 2 ways. One is we make a small thing big. That is normally what we call as intolerance. But tolerance can go wrong in other ways. We make a big thing small. So a small thing becoming big, that will be intolerance. Many of these virtues that we talk about, they are not they are not 2s, they are 3s. Like there's tolerance and intolerance. But it's not just that much. There's tolerance, intolerance, and there is impotence. Impotence means powerlessness. If we don't do anything about the situation at all. So that is unhealthy. So that's why each of us may have to decide according to our swabhava also, is this a small thing for me? If it is a small thing, let me tolerate it. But if it is not a small thing, then we cannot, like in the first class I mentioned that each of us has our particular samskaras. And because of some certain samskaras, some things may be very small, some things may be big. So, somebody who is a very good kirtaniya, now that person, if they start hearing for their own spiritual absorption and devotional absorption, if they start hearing kirtan of somebody who is not a very good singer, then they will feel musically agitated by the day. They'll not be able to absorb themselves in Krishna. So is it a small thing? For somebody else who does not have that musical sensitivity, what's the big deal? A little bit tal is going off, little bit mridanga is going off. It's no big deal. You remember Krishna. But for somebody else, it may be almost impossible. Isn't it? So each of us may have to decide. Now, of course, if we are in a program and somebody is doing kirtan, we should be able to, okay, let me tolerate it. But if for our own, at our home we are hearing kirtan, then we may choose a kirtan which is musically also satisfying for us. Isn't it? So what is a small thing, what is a big thing? Each of us may have to decide according to our own swabhava and according to our particular swadharma. What is our responsibility? Okay. So the disposition is our swabhava and the position will be our swadharma. Any other questions or comments?
Extension to that.
Okay.
So should we look at as okay, because I wanted to be, because Krishna suggested a Brahmana should be like this, a Kshatriya should be like this. So because I was a devotee, I wanted to be a good devotee. So should I try to be developing Brahmana qualities? Then I have to develop my tolerance, and even bigger things also I should leave that.
See, the
Or
point.
I should focus on my current.
Okay. The point is not just to develop tolerance. If you look at the series, 2.14 is tolerance. Tam Stikshasva Bharata. But what is coming before that? 2.13 is Dehinosmi Nitha Dehi. That is intelligence. Krishna, you are saying, oh, Bhishma will be killed. He says, the body is not the big thing. The soul is the big thing. The body is the small thing. And the result of this is Yamhina Vyatayantete Purusham Purusharshabha Samadukha Sukham Dhiram Swamrutatvaya Kalpate. You will attain immortality, transcendence. So tolerance should lead to transcendence. Tarorapi Sahishnuna is there. But what is the result of Tarorapi Sahishnuna? Kirtaniya Sadahari. Suppose we are chanting in a group and the person sitting next to us is chanting so loudly that we can't hear our own chanting. So should we be Tarorapi Sahishnuna at that time? Kirtaniya na kadapi hari ho jayega. We are not able to do any kirtan at all. So we have to see what is the result. So am I able to become more Krishna conscious by tolerating the situation? Or am I just becoming so agitated, I am feeling suffocated and I just cannot tolerate the situation? So based on that we need to decide. So rather than thinking that tolerance is the supreme virtue, see, our purpose is not just to become tolerant. Our purpose is to become Krishna conscious. Our purpose is to serve Krishna better. Our purpose is to share Krishna's message more. Now, when Prabhupada was in India, and hardly anyone was taking his message seriously, Prabhupada could have said, okay, let me tolerate it. Maybe this is Krishna's plan. My Guru Maharaj has said that if nobody comes to programs, speak to the walls. So maybe that is my destiny for this life. Prabhupada did not do that. Prabhupada said, okay, my spiritual master had told me to preach in English, to speak in the Western world. So let me go there. So we don't make tolerance itself the big thing. For us, tolerance is not the ultimate goal. For us, transcendence, attraction towards Krishna, absorption in Krishna is the big thing. And how we will get there? Sometimes it may be by tolerating the situation. Sometimes it may be fighting against the situation. Sometimes it may be just moving away from the situation. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the wonderful lecture, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is, devotee association is very important for moving ahead in Krishna consciousness. But sometimes, if the devotee association is giving more trouble, that we are not able to chant properly, are not able to focus properly on the services. So, what should we do?
So, devotee association is not anukul to bhakti. What should we do? So broadly, there are three options for us. We tolerate a situation, we mitigate the situation, or we emigrate from the situation. So now all these three are valid ways of doing it. So when Srila Prabhupada was in Jhansi, he was trying to start a league of devotees, and there the people who were supporting him turned against him. And Prabhupada said, just leave it. When Prabhupada was in Butler, Pennsylvania, he just come to America. There he was staying at the house of Gopal and Sally Agarwal, and the same fridge in which Prabhupada was keeping his bhoga, they were having beef. And that was the only place Prabhupada could stay. So she apologized. Prabhupada says, think nothing about it. Now imagine if later on a temple had been established and the beef was found in the fridge. Would Prabhupada think nothing of it? Think nothing except of this only. Think nothing else. How did this happen? This should never happen, isn't it? So now when Prabhupada was in Jhansi, when Prabhupada was in Juhu, at that time, what happened? The same person who had given the land also wanted to take the money and not give the land. So Prabhupada said, if he wants to steal Krishna's land, he will have to go over my dead body. Prabhupada fought over there, mitigated. So now you could apply this to the association of devotees also to some extent. Prabhupada was trying to work with his god brothers. But somehow the Gaudiya Math had got divided and things were just not moving forward. So then Prabhupada decided that I'll preach on my own. So we went to America. Prabhupada didn't have a mission separate from his spiritual master's mission. But the Gaudiya Math name, different people were adopting that name, and Prabhupada realized this had become very problematic. So Prabhupada started ISKCON. The mission was the same, the name of the institution was different. So in one sense, Prabhupada, when the Gaudiya Math conflict was going, Prabhupada emigrated. Initially Prabhupada was working with his god brothers and he was trying to assist them. But they had a very narrow vision and they didn't want to expand too much. So Prabhupada had a lot of vision to expand, and the matha in which he was serving, the Mathadipati, he started feeling insecure. Like, Swamiji, this person will become bigger than me. And started clipping Prabhupada's wings over there. So Prabhupada emigrated from there. Now later on, when some devotees criticized him, some of his god brothers criticized him, Prabhupada mitigated that also. He said that, who asked them, who has opened more temples than me, who has written more books than me, who has made more devotees than me. He says, I have inherited the legacy of my spiritual master. So now, generally speaking, with respect to devotees, it is not always possible to tolerate. But that doesn't mean, now each of these can be done in a very unhealthy way. The unhealthy way of doing this will be if we tolerate so much that we suffocate over there. Instead of mitigating, we retaliate. The point is not to attack the devotee. The point is to have space for our service and to protect our service. So we want to fix the problem, not hit back at the devotee. Now emigrate, we might run away. So we want to, if we have a service attitude, that's why we seva bhav, we have a attitude of dharma we have, then what will happen? We will be able to find out the right way to move ahead. So sometimes we can, when we are functioning with devotees, sometimes we cooperate. And okay, I'll adjust this, you adjust that. But sometimes if you cannot cooperate, then what we do is, we cooperate. Cooperate means what? You operate there, I'll operate here. So you do this service, I'll do this service. And that's fair enough. We don't want to fight against each other, but everybody needs their space. When Krishna went as the peace messenger, he asked for 5 villages. The Pandavas were all united. But although they were united, they were Kshatriyas. So Krishna did not ask for one village. Because each Pandava, the Kshatriya, would need their own space. So we cannot have somebody constantly looking over our shoulder and suffocating us. So in that sense, as devotees grow older, it's not that devotees necessarily have differences that are irreconcilable. But everybody will have certain inspiration, certain understanding, certain way of serving and presenting and sharing. So then everybody needs to have some space. And we need to work with other devotees to see how we can get that space. Is that okay?
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. So, Should we take that question? Stop.
We can take it. Yeah. It's Friday. You want to ask your questions yourself?
Okay. So one question answer I already got about tolerance, that how much we should tolerate, that as you said earlier. That it's
So question 1 or question 2?
question 2 I think. Yeah. Question 1 I will ask.
Okay.
So yesterday you talked about the impressions, Prabhuji. So the impressions we carry in our mind from life to life, and we have our anarthas. So does it have any relation, or it's anarthas are part of impression?
Okay. So the impressions, the samskaras, I use the word. Now sometimes the words have different meanings, like I said. But broadly, we can say that the samskaras have 2 categories. The more positive is vritti. Now vritti in English is sometimes called as instinct. Now instinct is very different from impulse. Impulse is more of vasana. So impulse means the impulse to yell at someone, the impulse to overeat, the impulse to waste time, the impulse to gossip. These are all impulses. We all, from our past life, we get some impulses. So kama, krodha, lobha, these are all impulses. They come as urges, they impel us to do something. So that is there. But then Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, these are also impressions inside us. But they are positive. Impulses are unintelligent or even anti-intelligent. They make us do things which are harmful. Whereas instinct is almost like programmed intelligence. Like some people just have a instinct for music. Like a 3-year-old kid will sometimes take a musical instrument and start playing it. And play it brilliantly. On YouTube there are all these talent shows. America has got talent, India has got talent, this country has got talent. And you see these small kids, they're phenomenal prodigies there, the way they function. So we all have certain instincts. So the vritti, Krishna talks about this in 3.33, he says, Nigraha kim karishyati. Arjuna, you are a Kshatriya. If you try to act like a Brahmana, it's not going to work. What will repression accomplish? So the vritti needs to be developed. Whereas the vasana, Krishna talks about indriyasya indriyasyarthe raga dvesha vyavasthito tayor navashamagachet tavyasya paribandhino. He says we have anarthas inside us, those we should not succumb to them. We should learn to regulate them. So be a Kshatriya, you can't be a Brahmana. But don't be a power hungry Kshatriya like Duryodhana. Be a virtuous Kshatriya. So in that sense, for us, both impressions are there. So the example that is given is, if you consider the body-mind machine, the mind is like a kshetra. Kshetra is a field. Now, on a field, there are seeds and there are weeds. So the anarthas are like the weeds. They have to be removed. They have to be uprooted. Whereas the vritti which we have, those are the talents that we have, the abilities that we have, the interests that we have. Those are to be developed. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My question was, as you beautifully explained emotions and how they carry energy and information, there are 3 ways to avoid, and then there are 3 categories. So how do we apply these 3 principles in managing others' emotions? Is it the same way, or is it like a different way you're going to talk about in the next lecture?
I'm thinking, is this question avoidable? Okay. Yeah, to some extent we try to use our intelligence to understand, but then we also need to understand from their perspective. We can't just figure out people on our own without talking with them, without understanding them. So if somebody is behaving in a particular way, which is disturbing to us, now it may be that is just the way they are, and it is going to be almost impossible for them to change. Then we may decide this is inevitable, and we may have to learn to live with it. Now, let's take different behaviors. Like some people speak very loudly. It's like there is a natural loudspeaker inside that throat. And that loudspeaker does not have a lower volume button on it. So now, if we are soft spoken, that might just be jarring and irritable for us. But that's just the way they are. And naturally they speak loudly. They don't mean offense, they're not aggressive in their behavior or even their speech. They're just loud. So over a period of time, when we spend time with them, we understand, okay, their loud tone does not mean anything negative. So we might get used to it. Okay, this is inevitable. So this is just the way they are. Now, sometimes somebody might be using particular ways of addressing us. They may be behaving in a particular way. Sometimes people meet and they pat each other on the back, and the pat becomes a smash. So now they may have particular ways of greeting or speaking or addressing, which may be unpleasant for us. But they may not know about it only, and that's why they continue it. But if we tell them, and they, oh, I didn't know that this was annoying you, so then that's avoidable. Now, suppose somebody is very disciplined and regulated. Suppose we tend to be a little disorderly. Somebody else is very orderly. And by being with them, we also need to become orderly. Then that could be strengthening for us. So their orderliness might be a little irritating for us. Okay, everything you have to do like this, like this, like this. But maybe we learn and grow. So I think each of us has to evaluate that. We have to talk with the other person also. And then understand. Okay. Thank you very much. श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंद।
His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji ki jai.